Yo, what's up everybody? On today's video, why I don't trust where the real estate market is at right now. Let's talk about it. So one thing that really resoundingly strikes to me about today's real estate market in a really scary way is that, let's suppose you're buying a house. There's people out there right now who are, and this has been happening for over a year now, people will bid $20,000 over asking price. But here's the problem. They're doing that with money that's not theirs. And the people who have cash money going to bid against those people. And the people that are selling the properties might take the cash offer. And the cash offer might be paying $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 more based on somebody who made an offer on a property with money that they didn't have. People finance their weddings and start off their marriage with a crap load of debt. Financing is really the American way. Here's the problem with that where we are today. Somebody will bid, I don't know, $20,000 over asking price with money they're borrowing. So here's somebody who has made themselves competitive in the marketplace, and they're maybe getting loans. There's loans out there, 3%, 5%. So here's somebody who scrapes up a small amount of cash money, and they hit the marketplace and they'll bid $20,000 above asking price. So now you have an offer on a property from somebody who could barely scrape up a little bit of money, but they have good credit and good incomes. Now, what do those two things translate to? Good credit means you're really good at getting into debt and paying it back. And good incomes means you have the ability to continue to do that. But let's say you have $250,000 cash right now, but you don't have income because you're self-employed. And as a smart self-employed person, you like to write things off. So on paper, you're writing off your losses. You're growing your net worth. Why would a bank, you think about this, who's in a better position to pay off that mortgage? Somebody who is self-employed, growing their net worth, and has a crap load of money, cash, that means that they've been able to accumulate wealth, or somebody who just scrapes up a few $1,000 and says, I'm going to bid over the asking price? Which one of those two candidates do you think, if you were lending somebody money, you would rather lend money to? Somebody who's already got a lot of cash money, they've been able to save up money, and well, they're able to write off everything because they're doing everything the smart way. Or somebody who is just really good at getting into debt and paying it off. Which one of those two candidates would you personally? You're going to have different opinions. A person with $250,000 cash who doesn't have credit and doesn't have incredible income, because now they're asking, say you're renting a property, they want 3 times your income. So to pay a $2,000 rent, you got to have a $6,000 income. So let's say you have a $5,000 income and you want to rent a $2,000 house, but you have $250,000 in the bank. Guess what? You will be denied based on income. So let's say all this time you've been saving money to escape the rat race, pay off a house cash, and not be indebted to banks. You are actually the enemy of banks, because one, these companies cannot enslave you into getting into debt. Two, because now you are able to escape the system that they have rigged up for you. I knew that in the United States it was going to become increasingly difficult to be out of debt and self-proprietor and not a slave to their system. Person who's got a car loan, person who's got a mortgage, they got to get up at 5 in the morning and be in that traffic jam to make that bank their money. When the banks decide they want your job to disappear, they have the power to do that. If you're self-employed and you have a considerable little nest egg of cash, you shouldn't have to worry about those things. You should just have the ability to do whatever the crap you want. Well, it turns out that that person who should be able to buy a house cash, now there's nothing on the market. And now that person who has cash money is getting outbid by someone who a bank is enabling them to get into debt above their capacity. So now, a person who's worked hard to have a small little lump of cash, that person's being outbid by someone who could barely scrape up a down payment, since there's really low interest rates and there's really low down payment requirements at this time. So somebody who's willing to get into debt for a bank, willing to go work and be a slave for a company, that's a prime candidate for a bank to help you get a home. But if you have $250,000 cash, you can't even buy a house. Not only can you not buy a house, you're also not even able to lease an apartment, which makes no sense to me. If I'm leasing an apartment, somebody comes up to me and they say, hey, I got $250,000, I got $100,000, I got $300,000 cash, I just bailed out of the real estate world, I turned, I think it's peak, I'm selling out, I'm taking this equity that I have and I'm going to live off it and escape the rat race. You are now the number one enemy of banks. They don't want you to escape the rat race. They want you to stay inside of that circle they have. They won't even lease you an apartment unless you're making 3 times the income, which honestly, if you have $300,000, let's say, you're not going to, by any reason, why would you? I own an apartment and I'm renting it and somebody comes up to me and they say something along the lines of, hey, I got $300,000, it's a $2,000 a month rental, you're getting that apartment because I know that you have enough money. They say, oh, you could spend that money overnight. Yes, that's very true, but you could much more easier. I mean, it's a lot easier to lose your job overnight. Here's where the logic of this just doesn't make sense to me. It'd be a lot easier to lose your job, income that doesn't even exist yet because you haven't made it yet, has more credibility than money that you've already made and is in your bank account. You're telling me that money that doesn't exist yet, that's in the future, you haven't worked for it yet, has more validation than money you've already made and is in your bank account? How does that even make sense? It doesn't. This entire system right now economically is rigged up to make sure that you, even though you have a crap load of money, one, have to go back into their rat race, be in that traffic jam, and work for that office. So if you're thinking about cashing in on this equity, the banks are giving you a very clear warning. You're not going to escape our system. The banks are actually going out there. They've been doing this for a while. They're actually buying up all the affordable real estate they can because they need it? No, they don't need it. They want it? No, they don't want it. Because they know that if they can get rid of this section of the market, you're forced into this section of the market. And if you're in this section of the market, you need their loans, you need their jobs, and now you depend on them. And when they decide to pull the plug on that, you are going to lose that house, the down payment, and well, you're pretty much at the mercy of banks. And that's what this whole system, in my personal opinion, because that's all I'm doing here, not an economist, didn't go to school, didn't go to Harvard, I went to Hialeah. I didn't go to Harvard, I went to Hialeah. I didn't go to college, I went to prison.
No, you didn't.
I didn't go to prison, but they tried it. They signed me up for it, and I was like, yo, I'm actually gonna get a job or something. So now, we're in a world where the ability to get into debt and income that doesn't exist, that hasn't been made, has more power than money that's already in your bank account by somebody who's been increasing their net worth gradually over time. Does that make any sense to you? Painted their house baby blue. You can see it from 75. Whoever you are, brilliant. Take a look, come out. At the end of the day, if you're thinking that you're going to escape the rat race, cash in on that equity, there's nothing on the market, they won't lease to you, especially if you're moving from one state to another. And not only are you going to face pressure from the banks, you're also going to face pressure from individuals. There's a lot of resentment from individuals who are still in this rat race towards, this guy's from New York! Sorry, I couldn't help it. Towards people who are trying to liberate themselves from the system, instead of looking up to you and saying, wow, this person's really not afraid. No, they actually resent you envy, resent, fear, they wish they had the courage to do what you're doing. Whatever the reason, there's a lot of resentment to being a self-made person in this world and not going for the lure of getting into debt and working like a slave for their system. And here's what the banks didn't count on. One, people are not going to work. That probably wasn't in their plans. And two, people are going to protest. They're not going to get evicted. They're not going to leave the homes. So now we're in an environment where they're not going to be able to evict millions of people because people aren't going to allow it. Here's the problem with that. The banks are able to manage that. But you know who's not able to manage that? Me, probably you. Right now, I'm in a situation where I would like to buy a rental property. You know why I can't buy a rental property? Because if I rent it to somebody, they don't have to pay me the rent. So now all these small-time people who invested into renting properties that they own, and some of them were stupid enough to do it on a mortgage, it's not even their own money, all those people are going to go underneath the water. Now, we don't know when they're going to pull the plug. They have two strategies that they can go by. They can keep making life more difficult for everybody and harder indefinitely. I mean, how long? The mortgage is for 30 years. If you pay twice what your house is worth, they're still making twice as much in the long run. So in theory, that's a po-po now? Why is there a Collier County Sheriff in Lee County? You're in the wrong county, man. You're going the wrong way, dude. Think about Naples, Florida. Right that way, okay? Naples, Florida right now, police officer, teacher, pretty much nobody that's essential for society is actually able to make enough money to live in that place. Eventually, they're going to outprice everybody, I guess. I'm not sure. I called a guy who has a vacation rental in Naples Park, Florida. And I told the guy, I said, hey, you got a vacation rental. Will you rent it out to me year-round? He says, no, I'll make more money in 2 months than I ever will renting it out to you year-round. And I don't have to worry about you trashing my property. That's the way this guy answered me. I said, eventually, you're going to have to rent it to somebody. Because, one, somebody's got to mow the grass out here for all these rich people. Somebody's got to clean the pools of these houses. Somebody's got to cut the grass. Somebody's got to live somewhere eventually. The guy hung up on me. I mean, they're trying to make everything a vacation rental. These people think they're savvy. They think they got a heads up. They think because they're leveraging themselves into properties, and then they're renting them out as vacation rentals and all that. They really think that they're doing themselves this great deed. What they don't realize is, one, those places are becoming incredibly undesirable, even to visit these days. Naples Park, Fort Myers Beach, the list goes on and on. Who is actually going to want to live in a place like that? Everybody's got to come in from somewhere else. We're at the point where I'm thinking it might be more desirable to live in Lehigh Acres than it is to live along the coast right now. I mean, you got the red tide, you got the cost. This is another New York. This guy's from New York. This guy's from New York. So, well, those little details and many more things that I'm seeing right now really are a bad indication to me that it doesn't make sense to join this boat that's ultimately going to sink. When will it sink? Why will it sink? We don't know. The banks have two main strategies they can go with. They can keep jacking things up, or they can let it drop. Either way, they're going to make a killing, and me and you are going to pay the price for that. Buddy, look at the wheels in that thing, buddy. Woo-hoo. Me, I'm going to buy a house if I can find one that I like, that's in my budget, that makes me happy. If it's worth $10,000 today and it's worth $1 million tomorrow, I don't care. If the price drops, if it lowers, I don't care. I'm not buying real estate as an investment. I buy real estate because I gotta live somewhere. I would love to live here in Southwest Florida where I'm from. However, this makes absolutely no sense. Pretty sure not even people like police officers and teachers at this point can afford to live here. The reason I left this metropolitan area was because I wasn't getting ahead. It's too competitive. You just can't get a foot ahead here. Now, come back and I see the same situation again, only now it's even harder. But in the time I left, became a little wiser, and I improved my life a little bit to where now I think if I come back here, I'll have that much more of an advantage. And this is just the icing on the cake to this topic. If you guys like this video, it gets a lot of views. we'll do more on this subject. I'll expand a little bit more on what I'm thinking about this real estate market. I'm sure you guys are thinking the same thing. I suspect that my North Florida videos and Alabama and Georgia videos are getting more views because it's so expensive in the Naples, Southwest Florida area. You guys aren't even watching the videos. You know it's not really feasible to buy here. So as I look at more affordable areas, I get a lot more views. Before, I used to get views in all these places over here. Now my videos in these places just don't get the same type of views because, well, frankly, people can't afford to live here anymore. That's the video. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. Leave your comments and thoughts. If you guys hit enough like buttons and enough comments, let YouTube know that this is a great subject. You want more from me on this subject, do that. Y'all have a nice day. Those are my thoughts on today's economy. Makes absolutely no sense. It's like we're all being forced to be slaves.